August marks the 7-year anniversary of the 35W bridge collapse that left 13 people dead. We talked with a local chaplain who was there helping in the aftermath.
This August also marks the year since Ray Widstrand was nearly beaten to death. We'll bring you an update on his recovery in the next half hour.
And welcome to your police report. I'm Carrie Crotty.
And I'm Lon Bakey. We're coming to you from lovely Keller Park in Maplewood. We hope you're having a fun and safe summer.
Well, it's been 7 years since the 35W bridge collapsed on a steamy summer night. 13 people died, and survivors were left with not only physical scars, but emotional wounds as well.
Ramsey County Chaplain Frank Thel was dispatched to provide support and comfort to those in need. He went on to work with survivors for several years.
Producer Mary Klein and photographer Jeffrey Wilson spent some time with him near the scene that looks so different from that tragic night. Take a look.
I never once asked why it happened to me.
Lindsay Walls never asked why a twist of fate, like missing her normal exit home from work, brought her to the 35W bridge the night it collapsed. Instead,
here is the place, in this class in particular, is an opportunity to let go of all of that stuff, right?
She promised to make her dream of opening a youth center a reality.
For me, that moment happened on the bridge, and I never looked back. I knew that this place would come to be, and so far it has.
Courageous Hearts, located in the Bancroft neighborhood of Minneapolis, is a place for kids 10 to 18 years old to come and express their issues through art.
It might just be that you have more practice.
It was art that helped Lindsay work through her trauma after surviving the bridge collapse 7 years ago. And like the vivid images the children paint in class.
Yep, you can always keep working on it next week.
Lindsay vividly recalls the moment she heard a beam snap and the ground beneath her disappear.
While I was falling, I kind of anticipated that I was on concrete, so I would land on concrete, and I basically envisioned my body, everything just being splat on the, concrete. That was what I expected to happen, and I was just waiting for it to happen. I didn't think about the river being a part of the story, but my car did a straight nosedive into the river, and as soon as my car started to enter the water started entering into my car.
Lindsay floated through the car looking for a way out. In the murky waters of the Mississippi, she couldn't see and soon began to gasp for air, instead taking in gulps of water.
I started to give up as the gasps of water kept coming in, and I knew that it was only a matter of time, so I really kind of shifted my thinking from fighting to kind of surrendering and just accepting that that was my fate, that I was going to die at the bottom of the river, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. So I kind of stopped the pushing and the moving around and was just kind of waiting for death. I felt this flash of light and started to float, and when I started to float, I assumed that, well, that's dying, right? That's a part of the death experience that they describe, and whoever they is. And so but I didn't feel dead. I didn't feel, and I don't know what dead feels like, but I felt like I was still in my body, and I felt like I was still alive. So I just kept kicking, and I was clearly beyond the confines that I'd been in my car, and I reached the surface of the water and took a gasp of air and had to turn around and get oriented to where I was and saw the destruction above the water.
With a broken back, she kicked her way to the surface and was helped to a median where she waited 45 minutes for medical assistance. It was in this chaotic place she experienced kindness.
But so that was this moment for me that was always so vivid, because it just, even in the midst of that trauma and that experience, people were right there, ready to help.
Lindsay spent 5 months in a back brace, but her emotional scars cut much deeper.
Just experiencing the loss of life and memorializing that day. It took me until the 5th anniversary, and on that day I actually stood at the Stone Arch Bridge and cried for the first time.
You hear the term surreal. Yeah. I had never experienced it till that night.
Ramsey County Chaplain Frank Tell was dispatched to the bridge the night it collapsed.
I go to sit down to eat dinner and I get the page. And it's the bridge collapse.
Initially, he stayed with construction workers on the north bank near a railroad yard. Although no one said a word, his presence said everything.
They were basically in shock.
He spent the rest of the night and the weeks that followed sitting with families waiting to learn the fate of their loved ones.
They were still recovering bodies yet for weeks.
Through the organization Survivor Resources, Frank began a survivor support group who met regularly after the bridge collapse and continued for nearly 3 years.
Sometimes your presence is really all that's needed, that there's somebody there that cares, that'll be with you through the journey.
Lindsay, who was a part of the group, has had ups and downs on her own journey, but has had tremendous support from family and friends in both her recovery and starting Courageous Hearts.
It wouldn't be possible with all of the hundreds, there's been so many people who have come in and helped, and we're, run entirely by volunteers at this point, including myself. And so we just keep trucking and keep figuring out how to make it happen. And, little grants have come in along the way, and we have little bits of donations that come in here and there from people, and we just keep making it happen on a shoestring budget.
Her vision is for Hearts to become that well-known yet little shop on the corner, a small-town kind of place in the big city. And this is why, since that fateful night in August, she's continued to move forward despite constant reminders of the past.
On August 1st, in a couple weeks, I'll be taking the day off, and that's always my day. I dedicate that as my day to reflect on life and to reflect on where I've been, and it's I don't even know if I can even fully comprehend all that has happened in the last 7 years, really. It's been a wild ride, to say the least, but I'm really, really happy to be on this end of it. Thank you. Have fun today. Woohoo!
If you'd like to learn more about Courageous Hearts, visit their website.
Seatbelts save lives, yet many people still refuse to wear them.
An area officer recently shared his emotional story about the importance of wearing seatbelts.
Sam hopped in the passenger seat of a car. Her friend was driving. They buckled up and they hit 52 and went northbound. Samantha tried to give her driver an update, and she reached over to tap her on the arm. When the driver looked away, the car drifted into the median, and at 80 miles an hour they hit a culvert. And the car somersaulted and rolled about 5 times. She was pitched around in there, but when the car stopped rolling, she was still in her seat because she had her seatbelt on. But all of that rolling around broke her neck, and she had an injury to her spinal cord. When I got the call at about 3:30 in the morning, it was just that they'd been in a crash, that it didn't sound serious, and they were going to need a ride home. When I got down there and I found her in the emergency room, I thought it was strange that there were so many somber-looking deaf kids sitting in the waiting room. And when I got to her exam room, I wasn't able to hold on to her hand because the spinal cord injury was making that too painful for any pressure at all on her hand. I still feel relief. I still find the whole episode to be incredulous. I can't believe that she survived when you look at the damage to the car and you understand how fast they were going and how violently it rolled. If it wasn't for the seatbelt, she wouldn't be here. She would have been killed. I was very fortunate in that my daughter survived because she had her seatbelt on, and If I could, I would stand on every rooftop in the metro area and shout it out to wear your seatbelt because it works.
Of the 269 motorists killed last year in Minnesota, 94 weren't wearing seatbelts. If that's not enough, a ticket costs $100, so buckle up.
We're going to take a break, but first, here's our roving reporter, Nick Kreckler, with a Maplewood Community Minute.
People love to hit the local parks and trails during the summer, but unfortunately, we live in a world where we need to think about our personal safety. Here are some ways to stay safe. Awareness is your first line of defense. Awareness of yourself, your surroundings, and potential attackers. Second, learn to trust your sixth sense. Intuition is a powerful insight into situations and people. Third, escape is always your best option. If a predator confronts you, never leave the primary scene. You are far more likely to be assaulted or killed if you go with an attacker. Fourth, be prepared to physically defend yourself. Women sometimes worry they'll anger the attacker and get hurt worse if they try to defend themselves, but statistics show your chances of survival are far greater if you fight back. Finally, carrying pepper spray is an option. However, be aware that pepper spray doesn't always work. Never rely on it completely. Training in personal defense and martial arts can also be helpful, and it's good exercise. This information may seem scary, but it's meant to bring awareness to potential dangers and how to defend yourself. Another good idea is to bring a friend along. I'm Nick Kreckler, and I'll see you next time. Now back to the dynamic duo after these messages.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Heat stroke is the most serious form of heat injury and can cause brain damage, organ damage, and worse, death.
We'd like to welcome back Dr. Carolyn McClain from the emergency room to discuss prevention.
Welcome back, Doctor.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, what is heat stroke?
So heat stroke is when your body heats up to a temperature that it can no longer regulate all its proteins and enzymes. So it usually causes confusion, and its mortality rate is 50%.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
you want to be very careful to avoid it.
Sure.
If your body gets too hot, it is no longer able to regulate anything it does, and you lose kidney function, brain function, and eventually it leads to death.
Wow.
And you were reading my mind. I was going to ask you how it impacts the body, so I'm going to go to my next question. Do you treat a lot of people?
It depends on the summer. This summer has been pretty mild, so when we treat the most number of people, it tends to be during a heat wave or during like the Lifetime Triathlon. We'll see a lot of heat-related injuries. When sports get back into session, when kids are training in August, a lot then.
And who is most affected by heat-related injuries?
So most of the time, the people that tend to die from heat-related injuries are the elderly.
Okay.
The other group that's highly publicized are the athletes.
Yeah.
But most of the time, when you hear about a heat wave and they say 6 people died, it's almost always the elderly.
Okay.
So it'd be nothing like today.
Nothing like today. It's a nice July day, 63 degrees.
What's the best way to prevent it?
So the best way to prevent it is to be prepared. So if you're going to be outside in the heat, make sure you dress appropriately, drink plenty of fluids, have a place where there's shade to cool off, have a lot of ice around. If you have family members that are older that live in apartments that are not air conditioned, check on them frequently, make sure they're drinking plenty of fluids, and try to get them to a place at least several times a day where it's cooler. Because a lot of these apartments get incredibly hot and they don't have any air conditioning or fans, and the elderly are not drinking enough.
Okay, so let's say that we didn't do our prevention. What are the symptoms that we should look for?
So before you get heat stroke, you get heat exhaustion. And heat exhaustion starts, you get sweaty, you feel hot. But after that, when you start getting heat stroke, you get confused, you start having, you stop sweating, your face gets red, you're very dry. One great example I had from several years ago, this guy who was a big biker was biking around his neighborhood, and the neighbors saw him biking erratically. He was going all over the place and they couldn't get his attention or get him to stop. So they called 911, the police came. As soon as he saw the police, he took off, which doesn't make any sense. This guy wasn't doing anything wrong.
Right.
The police caught up to him a couple blocks later when he passed out, and his core body temperature was 108 degrees.
Wow.
So those are, if you see someone that is doing something that doesn't make any sense, they're out exercising in the heat, try to get them to stop, make sure that they are not suffering from heat stroke.
Well, that's good information to know.
Absolutely, especially if it in fact warms up again.
Yes.
From our 63 degree
Yes.
day, which I'm sure it will.
They said next year it's going to be hot, so.
Next year?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Next year.
All right, well, thank you again, Doctor. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
And remember, your dog can experience heat stroke too. When they're outdoors, provide them with plenty of water, shade, and keep them out of your parked car.
And when it's too hot outside, leave them indoors. Also, never shave your dog during the summer. Their coats protect them from overheating and sunburn.
Here are some additional sources of information if you'd like to learn more about heat stroke.
Violence is an unfortunate part of life, but there are resources here in Maplewood designed to help those in need.
We try and keep it really simple. It's about get help and give help. Our primary goal is to engage the community in what we do, because the more people that know about us, the more they can be ambassadors letting other people in the community know how to get help. The fact is that all of us know someone who's been impacted. Domestic violence was often looked at as a private issue, a family issue behind closed doors. Then it became known as a women's issue, and now it's really a community issue. It's a public health issue, it's a workplace issue, it's an education issue, and it's a safety issue. We work with people who have experienced trauma, primarily domestic violence, sexual assault, substance abuse, mental health crises, and we serve people of all ages. We help almost 40,000 people every single year directly, and that can be a call in the middle of the night on our crisis line, or it can be someone who is using multiple services and really are working toward the next path, step on their journey. We also help another over 20,000 just in terms of community outreach and public support. And we provide safe shelter. That's also one of the things that is available here in this building. And we provide over 20% between here and our Minneapolis location of the state's shelter beds for victims of family violence and their children. And that's not counting the expansion. And we've been over 20% over our reimbursed capacity just because the need is so great. First of all, we help develop safety plans, and then we really work with people about all of their options, that full range of choices, and find them the resources, whether here at Tubman or connecting with other resources in the community. We also provide all kinds of legal help, then lots of mental and chemical health support and treatment, and then the elder abuse prevention, and all kinds of community education. Things like helping people get on their feet with financial literacy, career readiness kinds of things, even a clothing closet here called Harriet's Closet. We also work with men and women who have been abusive or who are feeling as though they may become abusive. Sometimes they're court-ordered and sometimes it's a choice, but we know that violence is a learned behavior and that it can be unlearned.
Oftentimes my first contact with clients, they are scared, they may be frustrated, they maybe have gone through this process before, this may be the 8th criminal case they've had. They feel like they have no options. And really to let them know that they do have options, that they have support, that they can call anytime and talk through things, and that there are services for them. When I'm first meeting with a client, I really want to get across that there is no judgment, that we all make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. So when they're meeting with us, that there's not going to be any judgment about past decisions they've made, that really they are wanting the best for their families, and that's what I'm here for. And I'm here to advocate for their wishes, not what I think is best for their family, but what's really best for them and their family and children on their time schedule. And really that they deserve a life without abuse, and that it's not their fault that they are experiencing verbal, physical, emotional abuse.
A lot of times young people aren't even sure that violence is happening to them, so it takes a really trusted connection to be able to share some questions, ask questions about what's going on, and then figuring out how to navigate it. What can I do? Where's a safe place to go? Who's going to help? Directly, we help 10,000 young people each year, and then that 10,000, a portion of them go on to help many, many more. We have young people that stay here for shelter and they get comprehensive resources and support. We also are able to meet young people in their homes or schools, community centers, coffee shops. We connect by email. We offer a host of community events and ways to connect, support groups, one-on-one services, the full range.
If someone is concerned about someone that they care about, I would want them to know that they don't have to figure it out on their own. That there are organizations like Tubman who are here to help people figure out what their path can be, what their options are, to customize that safety plan to their own situation. Oftentimes people are afraid to bring it up because they don't want to offend someone. I say that I would rather offend you than not let you know that I care. And so people they can call our crisis line. It's 24/7, anytime. It's 612-825-0000, or they can visit us at tubman.org, and there you can find all kinds of information about how to get help, how to give help. And some of the ways that people can give help are certainly going to our website, learning more about our volunteer opportunities. We do an extensive training. We work with about 700 volunteers every year and 200 pro bono attorneys who take cases over time. At least 150 of them do work for us every single year. We also have 2 special events every year that help us raise funds and spread awareness. One of them is coming up in August. It's August 13th, which is a Wednesday night. It's at the Depot in downtown Minneapolis, and it's called the Wing Ding. It's all the chicken wings and dessert that you can eat. It's really a fun time to learn a little bit more about what we do and to raise money for a good cause.
I just encourage people to get to know us, connect with us, and again, everyone has a gift to share, and we need the whole community to help make a difference.
It's been 1 year since he was nearly beaten to death, but Ray Widstrand is making amazing strides.
We'll bring you an update on his recovery when we return.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
On August 4th of 2013, Ray Widstrand was returning from a walk on the St. Paul's East Side when he was nearly beaten to death by gang members.
He was brought to Regions and listed as a John Doe since the gang members took his wallet. Doctors didn't believe he'd survive and placed him in an induced coma as they removed part of his skull. But he did survive and has made amazing strides in his road to recovery with the help of family. Surprisingly, he says he's forgiven the attackers.
I did publicly forgive them. I try not to dwell too much in the negative. I have enough negative thinking on my own, getting over my own depression and negative thoughts, that I don't need to dwell thinking bad about other people. Don't need to dwell in that mental space, because that would just be too much, I feel like.
Ray has learned to walk on his own, hopes to be driving again, as well as coming back to work at the SEC, where he works in master control. We wish him continued success as he continues to heal.
It's hard to believe, but 2014 marks the 20-year anniversary for Government Television Network. Here is a look at some footage from your police report 20 years ago.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Carol Nelson with the Maplewood Police Department. Welcome to your police report. With me today is Officer Steve Hines, my co-host.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Thanks.
We heard about that tragic shooting right at roll call, and it was those 4 words that we all dread: officer down, shots fired. And that whole day was very tense for all of us, and as the footage is showing you, the events that following, all of us were in attendance at the funerals and the wakes of those 2 officers, and have been involved in some fundraising for the Family's Memorial Fund since then.
Hello again, boys and girls. Today, I want to talk to you about pets. If you have a dog or a cat, I'm sure you love them a lot. But to keep your pet healthy and happy is a big job. Your pet needs regular checkups at the vet, just like you need regular checkups at the doctor.
I got a screen tap on my ear.
Go back here.
Okay, go back here.
Heel.
He loves to come to work. He can't wait. You know, it gets to be about 8:30 at night.
Stay.
If I'm not out by his kennel getting him ready to go to work, he's out there whining, wondering what's going on. He's learned over the time that, you know, a certain time of night comes, he's going to work. They open the kennel and he makes a beeline for the car, and he'll stand and wait by the squad car to get in. So he loves going to work.
We'd like to remind them that our program plays Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and we'd like it if they'd tell their neighbors about it and ask them to watch. In the meantime, till next month, thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye, everybody.
Steve Hines sure made a good safety pup.
He did, and we would like to remember all the previous hosts of this show.
20 years.
20 years worth, I know. Steve Hines and Carol Nelson, and then it was Steve Hines and Dale Riscaza, and then it was Steve Hines and Flint Karras.
Ah, yes.
And then it was Steve Hines and I.
That's when the show went south.
I know, that's when the ratings started to drop. Yeah. And then it was Joe Tran and I. And now...
And finally, they got it right.
Finally, yes, that's what I was thinking.
20 years, they got it right.
Yes,
So-
well, thank you for 20 years of GTN madness.
I'm thinking in 20 years, we'll walk our walkers out here with our lights on there and...
With our little tennis balls.
Pull it over!
We're glad you joined us for this edition of Your Police Report.
And we hope to see you next time. Stay safe, everybody.